All right, everyone, welcome back into another props video. Going to be touching on the top prop bets for this Friday, which means on PrizePicks, it's going to be Flex Friday, so I'll be giving you guys a Flex Friday slip as well. But first, let's go into a recap of yesterday. So yesterday, another pretty solid day. Tyrese Maxey just wasn't involved too much in the game. Keldon Johnson had a poor night shooting, but I just want to remind you guys that I typically will refer to fantasy score whenever possible if it's available. And so here's just kind of an example as to why Keldon Johnson was able to put his footprint on that game, even while not having a good night shooting. Now, he did have a lot of blocks and a lot of steals, which definitely helped him get his over there. Had a lot of assists as well, and that's kind of why I like to default to fantasy score. Now, I will point out Jakob Poeltl on this one. He did not get his over fantasy score, which did get kind of bumped throughout the day as well. So it's not always a perfect thing, but I've been more successful when we are getting a guy in a good spot. And I wouldn't have exactly said that was Jakob Poeltl last night, where he was in a good spot going against Joel Embiid, but Keldon Johnson was in a good spot. So that's why I like to refer to fantasy score whenever possible. And then, as you guys know, if you guys took the underdog slip, it was a pretty easy one. CJ McCollum, which we ended up getting a huge edge on. That one cashed easily. And then Deontay Johnson as well for over 5 receptions. A pretty easy slip to hit there, as it seemed. All right, so now we go ahead and get into today's slate, guys. It is a pretty big slate. I'm going to try to go as fast as possible, but we got the Cavaliers versus the Pacers, which is about a 2-point spread with the Cavaliers favored to win. A 225 over and under, so a pretty good game, it would appear. We look at the injury report real quick here. Tyrese Halliburton, currently a game time decision. If he were to sit, that's going to open up a lot. Darius Garland, still a game time decision, as well as Jared Allen. So these teams are going to be more difficult to figure out because we could see a lot of value opened up on this slate. Now, if Halliburton is out, I do think, and we didn't get the props yesterday or 2 days ago, TJ McConnell is still going to step up into a bigger role. That is what we saw last year, and that's what we saw in the previous game. Now, they did get blown out, the Pacers did, so it's tough to say exactly if that's going to occur. And we did see Bruce Brown kind of step up into a, I don't want to say good role, because the game was a blowout. He didn't play any minutes, and he was 1 for 6. Like, he didn't have a good game, but he is someone I do think we could see have a higher usage rate. Andrew Nembhard was someone that did try to get going as well, 17 shot attempts without Halliburton as well. So he'd probably be the one I would want to go with the most, depending on which prop is out there. But as it sits right now, we're really not getting any props for those games because, well, we just don't have the injury situation. So for me, it's probably going to be a stay away for that game in general, just right now, because we don't have enough information. If we get news that Halliburton's out, I probably would be looking at Nembhard there. The question would become, will that game stay close or not? A lot of people might go with like Donovan Mitchell for over fantasy score, points, rebounds, and assists. It's been at like 43.5. Really, if the game blows out, obviously we don't know for sure how many minutes he's going to get or how much production he would get. So it's tough to really gauge what we should be doing there. Now, Evan Mobley is seemingly in a good spot. If we get news that Jared Allen is out, I would expect him to be pretty involved again, like he has been. But even here, he only had 27 points, rebounds, and assists. Like, you would expect him to get a little bit more rebounds in this game, a little bit better matchup. And we look at his best game of the season, it was against the Pacers as well. And so he might be a target for points, rebounds, and assists. If it's at like 30, I probably would bet the over there. But let's go ahead and move on to the next game. I don't want to touch on too much stuff where we don't have the news just yet, just because I don't want this video to be too long. So we go ahead and move on. We got the Knicks versus the Bucks. The Bucks are 5.5 point favorites, a 225 or 224 over and under as well there. So another kind of, interesting game, close game we got there. News wise, we are wondering what's going to occur with RJ Barrett. If he sits, that is going to open up a lot of shot attempts. And to me, I do think it's noteworthy just how many minutes Mitchell Robinson has been getting. And so if he's someone that we can still see getting 30 minutes in this game, maybe staying out of foul trouble, he could be someone that we're looking at because, he is a rebound machine. And so if he's getting 30 minutes, he probably will get around 10 rebounds. We'll see if we're getting any good props for them. And so not really. I mean, the best one that we're getting is actually Julius Randle for under 8.5 rebounds. We can see Underdog has already bumped it down to 8. The projection data, though, doesn't exactly agree with that. We have another one, Jalen Brunson for under 35 for a fantasy score. I don't know if I want to roll with that. He is going to get kind of Damian Lillard defense, which has been something of note because Damian Lillard has not had pretty good defense. And so that's probably one where I'm staying away from personally. And if RJ Barrett is out, I think we're just going to see a little bit more shot attempts go to Jalen Brunson's way. And I think that's a direct result of what we saw last game where he was out. We saw Jalen Brunson shoot the ball 23 times. I don't think that was a fluke. Okay, so to me, where we're getting that low fantasy score for Jalen Brunson, I probably wouldn't want to touch that because I do think he's going to get a slight bump if RJ Barrett's out because he'll be getting a good matchup. Now, if RJ Barrett is active, this is kind of a low number for a guy that has really been consistently getting that over. Knee soreness, like I don't think we need to worry about that too much with him because you expect him to play then. And he's been someone that does get up a lot of shot attempts. And if this matchup's a little bit easier, then yes, RJ Barrett should be able to get the over there. If he sits, I think we're going to look at minutes being split between Josh Hart and also Dante DiVincenzo, who got 30 minutes in the last game. He'd be the player I'd want to go in on the most. I don't know what his points, rebounds, and assist prop would come out to be, but I do think we could bank on him getting a block or a steal. So he could be someone where if we get a good fantasy score line on it, if RJ Barrett's out, we could be looking at him. Now, we do see that the turnover prop for Mitchell Robinson was actually one of the better ones at about 53.4 likely to hit. And I would agree with that. Like, that's a seemingly good one to me. We see his game average so far through 5 games this season. He's had a turnover in 3 games. And I just think with like Giannis there and Brook there, maybe there's a chance where they kind of just poke it out a little bit. At the same time, like if he's not getting 30 minutes, it's going to be less likely to hit. So to me, I'm not seeing any like ones I really want to be going in on. Maybe this one for Mitchell Robinson's at rebounds and assists. And that's actually see his projected minutes on this slate. Okay, 27. So if he gets 27, it's going to be more difficult for him to get there. I'll agree with that. The projection has it set at 8.3. So yeah, he definitely needs to get 30 minutes to get there. And maybe we just have a little bit of a game stack there. Mitchell Robinson potentially. We also see Julius Randle for fantasy score. This is seemingly a good one as well. So maybe we're doing that. Mitchell Robinson over rebounds and assists, Julius Randle over fantasy score. And then I would like RJ Barrett for over fantasy score as well. We're not exactly seeing that the one that pops up, but I don't think that's going to be a terrible one. And then Mitchell Robinson, points, rebounds, and assists. Again, if he gets 30 minutes, that is a pretty low number because he can almost get there in his rebounds. Now, I do think that the bigs for Milwaukee are going to be able to prevent some production for a big like that, but who's to say for sure? Isaiah Hartenstein did not get a lot of minutes in the last game, so kind of interesting there, which did lead to Mitchell Robinson getting 30 minutes. So let's switch up. We'll get into the Milwaukee Bucks. They are seemingly healthy. The biggest question mark that we have on the slate is how many minutes will Chris Middleton get, because he has been extremely efficient in a limited minute role. And so right now, the best prop, one of the better props that we're getting on the slate is actually Brook Lopez for over 22.5 for a fantasy score. We can see the average sportsbook line does have it set at 22.4, which is kind of crazy, right? Pretty darn accurate there. But if you combine all the projections that we have, that's being pulled in, they would heavily be favoring the over. Okay, about 54.5% chance for that one to hit. And let's look at why. So first, we'll show you guys his minutes. His minutes have been there, getting about 28 to 30 minutes. That's a good thing. And it's not exactly the best matchup. And Brook Lopez is so hit or miss. Now, in the last game, they got absolutely torched by the Toronto Raptors, and you could say he was part of the reason as to why. And he's only gotten the over one time thus far this season. And for me, I probably am not going to be using any Bucks props until I start to see some consistency with them. You can just tell they're going through a feel it out phase with Damian Lillard, both defensively and offensively. And Damian Lillard hasn't exactly dominated. And it's just a weird dynamic with Brook Lopez in there as well. Kind of a bigger, slower moving guy, whereas Damian Lillard, Giannis, they probably want to pace up a little bit more. And so it's just a weird feel it out stage. So sure, in a one-off situation, we could use that. Maybe in the game stack. But I probably won't be going in on that one too much, although the data does seem to like it. And then we do see Damian Lillard rebounds and assists for under 10.5. Again, I don't know if I really want to be touching any Bucks props. Just to me, I feel like it's just tough to say exactly what we can expect from them. It is seemingly a low number. You would expect Damian Lillard to start to get more assists, but that really depends on the Bucks starting to make some more open shots, which they haven't done too much of thus far this season. So to me, I want to move on into the next game. And so for this next game, it's going to be the Brooklyn Nets versus the Chicago Bulls. We'll pull up their injury report. Zach LaVine, currently a game time decision. That's really the biggest news there. And then we did get news that Nick Claxton is out again. Spencer Dinwiddie, game time decision. If he sits, we're going to see a lot of usage open up to someone like Cam Thomas, probably Ben Simmons, and then Cameron Johnson is still out as well. So I was kind of wondering if we were going to be getting some props for the Nets, and we are. So I mentioned on yesterday's video, probably the one mental mistake I made on the slip 2 days ago where it went 4 for 6 was being on Ben Simmons as much as I was. And that's simply because he had a tougher matchup against Miami. He got into foul trouble, and apparently he left the game as well for a little bit. Went to the locker room, so might have been a little bit banged up. I'm not exactly sure what happened there, but he'd be someone I think I'm fine going back to the well with. We look at the projected starting lineup for them. we're going to see that he could be playing at the center, and that's actually going to make me like Nikola Vucevic again tonight. It's just the matter of, will he go off again, like 3 straight, or probably not as much as he did yesterday, but 2 straight games. Will he do that again? It's tough to say for sure. But looking at Ben Simmons, I do think I like that. It's just the matter of which one do we want to go in on. Probably still points, rebounds, and assists, depending on the prop, but we do see that this is a seemingly good one as well for his points and rebounds. We look at his projected minutes, 30 minutes. Yeah, if he's going to be getting 30 minutes, it's tough for me to see him not getting there. For me, this is a slightly easier matchup for him as well than Miami. And it's weird. He did end up playing 34 minutes, but he got into foul trouble in the first half. And, you start to play more timidly is the best way to describe it. And so just for what it's worth, like, we don't have the biggest sample size going into this, but with Cameron Johnson and Nick Claxton off the court, we do see Cam Thomas get the most points, and he has a usage rate of 30%. For Cam Thomas, that is a ton. Okay. Now the Nets kind of struggled for most of the game, then came back. Cam Thomas still shot the ball 19 times, even though he was terrible shooting the basketball. So he's someone we'd expect to have a better game shooting tonight. And I'm surprised that we're not getting any props that are popping up for him. And that's probably because that leaves him a little bit too open. And what I mean by that is if Spencer Dinwiddie's ruled out, Cam Thomas gets a big bump. If Spencer Dinwiddie's active, then it's more difficult for Cam Thomas to get there. As it sits right now, I think we operate under the assumption that Dinwiddie's going to be playing. Mikal Bridges is someone that has been struggling thus far this season. Finally had a little bit of a better game. I shouldn't say struggling, because that's not the word to describe it, but he hasn't taken that next step that a lot of people thought he would take, and he has slightly taken a reduced role as well. With Cam Thomas just shooting a bunch of shots. Now, I do think with Dinwiddie potentially out, we are going to see Mikal Bridges get a bigger bump. But that's kind of a wait and see approach. So yeah, to me, probably just Ben Simmons again. And we see his points, rebounds, and assists. I think we'd rather go points and rebounds, or maybe just fantasy score once again, because he is someone that will probably get a block or a steal or 2 as well. Now we look on the flip side of that. I do think we want to be going in on Nikola Vucevic in some capacity. Now, points, rebounds, and assists is probably going to be the one I want to go on the most. The sportsbooks are kind of favoring more of 33.7 compared to a line of 33.5. The issue here is that we are getting him on a little bit of an upslope, whereas in the last game we got him before that. So he's had 2 really good games in a row. I think that's due to matchups. Dallas and Indy, those are going to be good matchups, I think, this year for bigs. But I think this is another good matchup against Brooklyn, against Ben Simmons. Like, that is not a tough matchup. And then Sharp, the Brooklyn Nets backup center, also not a matchup that I'm too worried about. So I think Nikola Vucevic is in another good spot. And so I do think I want to be going in on Vuce. He was someone that had a slow start to the season, but has since been playing better. And that's why we see him get this over 2 straight games. And then we look at some other props that we have here. We see Kobe White, who has really seen his role been reduced. The projection data is saying bet the under, and all the sportsbook data is saying bet the under. We see his minutes. He is projected to get 28 minutes. Now, I don't know if that's exactly going to be true. Now, if Zach LaVine's out, that's going to help him get more minutes. Alex Caruso has seen, a decent amount of minutes. And so we look at Kobe White. It's been just sporadic. 33, 25, 28, 40, 31. It's tough to say exactly what to expect this game, and it does seem to depend a little bit on how he's shooting the basketball. I don't know for sure if I want to just trust that, but even still, like, we see his points, 10 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist. So even at that line, he has really struggled. So I like Vooch for over, and I think Kobe White for under are 2 pretty good ones. I don't know if that's more of a game stack. Maybe run it back with Ben Simmons. Don't hate that. And then from there, I don't think I want to be touching that many more ones. So again, let's go ahead and move on into the next game. And just for what it's worth, DeMar DeRozan is going to have a good game at some point. He's kind of struggling right now. It's weird. But yes, we move on into the next game. We got the Golden State Warriors versus the OKC Thunder. And so to me, this is going to be one of those games where we probably do want to try to stack it in some capacity. I think the Thunder are going to be a nice spot in terms of pace up. And this over and under to me is kind of interesting, especially given the Golden State Warriors as well. I would think that this game would be a little bit higher. And so to me, that's pretty fascinating there. So let's break down why. And just for what's worth, like, this is big injury news. We got news that SGA is out, and maybe that's why the game total is going to be a little bit lower. But I do think we're going to see Josh Giddey, Jalen Williams step up into bigger roles. And I'm actually curious as to what Chet Holmgren's usage is going to be. So are we getting any props for them just yet? We should, because that's the only news that we have. And so here we go. One of the better prop bets right now is actually Josh Giddey for over 3.5 rebounds. And what's weird is that Jalen Williams also rebounds and assists is under at 10. And I just kind of want to talk about the process of this team with Spencer Dinwiddie, with SGA off the court. So SGA is obviously a high usage rate player. We know that. And so with him off the court last season, it was actually Josh Giddey that saw the biggest bump in production. And we have a pretty good sample size going into that. So Josh Giddey with SGA off the court averaged 18.2 points per 36, 8.5 rebounds, and 7.8 assists. So far this season, it's been a little bit lower than that, but not too many minutes going into that. So I do think when we look at his props, and we saw that rebound prop being one that's popping up, 8.5 rebounds per 36 with SGA off the court. Now, yes, they have Chet Holmgren there now, and let me just actually take a peek at this season's stats. How much has that changed for rebounds? And actually, it's such a small sample size. It's 35 minutes, so not even that a good of a sample size, but 10 rebounds per 36. So not a big difference there, and it's just one of those weird things that happen. So yeah, I don't mind that one. Like, the data is telling us that is a pretty darn good prop. But if you want to go points, rebounds, and assists, like, this one is seemingly pretty high. At the same time, he does average about 34 points, rebounds, and assists per 36 with SGA off the court. And so if this game stays close, kind of like Vegas is thinking, then I do think we're going to see Josh Giddey have a pretty good game. We do see his projected to get 31 minutes, so not exactly that per 36 production that we'd be looking for. And I would say probably the better bet would be the rebounds and assists for him, because this should seemingly be set at 16, not 14 and a half. Now, from there, we also have Jalen Williams, who should step up into a bigger role. Jalen Williams last season averaged 21 points per 36 with SGA off the court, 4.8 rebounds, 3.7 assists, and about 34 fantasy points per 36 with them off the court. And so we look at his props. To me, we are probably getting a decent edge here, maybe points, rebounds, and assists if the game's a little bit better. I don't really see that, though, in this game at least. Maybe the points would be the best one, because he does average 21 points per 36 with SGA off the court. Hasn't exactly gotten there, but been pretty consistent as a fantasy producer. Like, guys, this is going to open up a lot of points. So if Vegas is right about how this game's supposed to go, that's almost like 20 shot attempts per game. And so you would expect someone like Jalen Williams to step up and get a little bit more production. Now, it is going to be noteworthy. We also have Carson Wallace here. He was not on the team last year, so it's tough to say exactly what's going to happen. We did see Aaron Wiggins last year and Trey Mann, though, have the next most minutes after Josh Giddey and Jalen Williams with SGA off the court. Their per 36 production was pretty good. And we're not getting any props for Carson Wallace. I'm curious, though, if we do. I just want you guys to be prepared. So this season, he is the player that has the most minutes with SGA off the court. And so if we get a prop for him, he might be the player we're looking at. Per 36, he has averaged 15 points, 5 rebounds, and 2.6 assists. And so if we give him a minutes bump to maybe like 25, maybe we're looking at him as a prop bet. And then just looking at some other ones we have there, we do have Chet Holmgren at 17.5. That could seemingly be a decent one as well. He's not going to get 36 minutes, and I want to see what his actual projection is for minutes. It's been limited, 27. So 27. His per 36 production, however, with SGA off the court is 19 points, 8.4 rebounds, and 3.2 steals. So you're almost taking off 9 minutes there into the sample. So it's seemingly the correct line. I don't know. I feel like we might have just like a game stacking opportunity where maybe once the fantasy scores are out for this game, we could load up on Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams, and Josh Giddey for over fantasy score. And I think that'd be the way to go. And maybe we get one for Carson Wallace. Now let's go ahead and move on into the other side of this game, the Golden State Warriors. And to me, guys, the Golden State Warriors are going to be a team that I think night in and night out, as long as they're healthy, we're not going to be able to attack too much, just because their production can get spread out so much between the players. Now, I do think that this is seemingly going to be a game in which we do want to attack maybe someone like Andrew Wiggins at 12.5 points. I think he does get a better spot here going against the Golden State Warriors. Wiggins is someone, though, whose minutes have been pretty limited thus far this season. A lot of that might be due to games not being exactly close, but in their last close game, only 25 minutes in that game. Had 14 points in that game. So yeah, to me, the Golden State Warriors are just going to continue to be a stay away for now. So then from there, we go into Washington versus the Miami Heat. Washington is probably the worst team in the league. It might be one of the worst teams in a while. Injury-wise, though, they are going to be with their center, so we're not going to have Kyle Kuzma center this game, thankfully. That should help them out a little bit. Looking at it, though, 9-point spread, 225 for the over and under. I don't know if we're going to want to be attacking anything here. We'll go through the process, though. And I say that because Miami, for the most part, has been a little bit ugly with their games. And it's really just been Tyler Hero having good games. And so let's see it. Like Jimmy Butler, maybe this is a good one at 10.5 rebounds and assists. Like, that is not terrible. I do think that one has some legs to it. But that's mostly going to be because he hasn't exactly been shooting the basketball a lot. So you get Tyler Hero going a little bit more. I don't mind that. I'm actually curious as to what the projected starting lineup is. All right. Because Jaime Jaquez is someone that I like, guys. And if he was going to be starting the power forward spot, I was hoping we'd maybe get a prop for him. We're not. So not terrible there for Jimmy Butler. We do see Kevin Love over turnovers. I don't know if I want to roll with that. Maybe for Kyle Lowry under points and assists at 12.5, about a 53% chance for that one to hit. What I don't like about that is then we also see his points, rebounds, and assists at 15.5 as seemingly a good one. But let's take a peek at his minutes. Projected to only get 24 minutes in this game. Now, he is someone that the last couple of games has been getting more minutes than that, so I don't know exactly if I trust that, but once again, if this game does blow out, kind of like Vegas is thinking, then yeah, his minutes will be capped. And then I would say for someone like Kyle Lowry, the under would probably be a logical approach there. But all in all, I don't think a lot of the props that would be on for Miami have a lot of legs to them. So let's go ahead and move on into Washington. So the thing with Washington being so bad is, night in and night out, we probably will get some decent props. I'm not exactly sure we're getting that tonight per se, especially against Miami, who is seemingly a more difficult matchup. Now, we do see Gafford for under points and assists. Gafford is someone that is so minutes dependent in terms of his production. And tonight, going against Bam, we might worry about a little bit of foul trouble. We can see he's only projected to get 21 minutes. He's a guy where it's risky because maybe this game does stay close and maybe he does get those minutes where he gets 30 or so minutes, which he did get in their one game against Memphis that stayed close. And then to me, he probably gets the over. Now, even still in that game, he didn't get the over. So I would say this one feels pretty good. And I'm going to write this one down actually because I do like that one right now. Not a lock and load. And that's kind of been the theme thus far is I don't think we have a lot of lock and loads just yet. And I never like to use the word lock, but not a lot of really good prop bets just yet. And so we can move on into the next game. We got Dallas versus Denver. All right. So looking at Dallas versus the Denver Nuggets, another game, almost a 7-point spread, kind of high scoring at 225. But we don't have a game thus far that's too high scoring. So we look at the injury report. We see Braun, game time decision. Jamal Murray, game time decision. Vucevic, a game time decision. Now let's take a peek at the projected starting lineups to see if anyone is actually going to be out. It does seem like Murray's going to play. It does seem like Jokic is going to play as well. And Braun probably going to play as well. So that means that this game should be a full goal. We do see Kyrie Irving on the flip side of that. Game time decision. We really don't know what to expect with Kyrie Irving ever. So on a night-to-night basis with his injuries, who knows? And if he sits, Dallas does become so much more difficult. They did all play a little bit better, the ancillary players, the secondary players last game, and they actually won the game, even though Luka didn't exactly dominate. And he still had a good game, don't get me wrong, but they're going to need more, I would say, from Luka if they're going to compete in this game, if this game is not going to blow out. Now, Tim Hardaway Jr. was on. He was shooting the basketball extremely well there. Grant Williams, I believe, had himself a good game as well. He did. And so far this season, with Kyrie Irving off the court, it actually is Grant Williams getting the second most minutes, Luka first. Grant Williams per 36 does average about 18.4 points, 6 rebounds, and 1.4 assists. So not great. Tim Hardaway Jr. actually has a pretty good usage rate with him off the court. But to me, it's so hit or miss with these guys. I mean, that's why they brought in Kyrie, right? Looking at though, Tim Hardaway Jr. does average 30 points per 36. He's not going to get 36 minutes, obviously, but is someone that shoots the basketball a lot. 4 rebounds, 4.6 rebounds, and 1 assist. So yeah, he's really just RJ Barrett, where if you're probably betting on him, you're probably betting on him 4 points. And so right now for Dallas, we're not getting that many other props in that game. So tough to say for sure. Maybe fantasy score, but we're not going to get into the other props until we get news on Kyrie Irving. And that's why I was going over the per 36 production. Now, guys, I apologize. I did realize I kind of skipped over the rest of the Washington Wizards players. I had to take a quick break in between filming, and I thought I had moved on to the next game. I did not, so let's real quickly go back into that. For the rest of the Wizards players, I don't really love any of them. The only one I would like is actually that Tyus Jones over points prop, but that's going to be only if this game stays close. We have seen the minutes have been limited for him. He is someone that I thought would have a lot of assists with Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole just chucking up shots. I don't want to attack that. I don't want to go in on those guys. So that's part of the reason as to why I'm staying away. So now let's go ahead and move on into Denver. So for Denver, we see that we are getting a lot of good Aaron Gordon props. We are seemingly getting an okay Michael Porter Jr. prop for fantasy score. Actually, Aaron Gordon under fantasy score. Tight line there, but let's just take a peek at both of those. And so to me, those two do kind of correlate together. If someone like Aaron Gordon is getting his under fantasy score at this line, which we can see, he's been close to it every single game except for the first game. And so it's tough to trust for sure. It is a little bit dependent on his blocks, rebounds, or blocks and steals, whereas Michael Porter Jr. is kind of getting it done everywhere. And so they are both tight. But we see Michael Porter Jr., minutes have not been there as much as we would like. And so that's where I do struggle to get to him. Whereas Aaron Gordon, his minutes for the most part have been there. Like we see 23 and 18, don't love that. And if this game does blow out in favor of Denver, you know, I could see both of them honestly just having their fantasy score prop or prop lines capped. Now, he has been someone that has been getting a lot of steals. If you guys want to go in on the over 0.5 steals, that's not terrible. But all in all, this is kind of another one where it's like, don't exactly love it too much. Yeah. Let's move on to the next game here. All right. For the next game, and this might actually be our best one, we got the Memphis Grizzlies versus the Portland Trailblazers. A close game right now. We did get news in this game that Scoot Henderson is out. We also know that Simons is still out. We do need news on Sharp. I want to see if he's projected to start. He is expected to play. We actually have Malcolm Brogdon currently projected to start in that game as well. So maybe we're looking at some props for him. On the flip side of it, we know Derrick Rose is going to be out in this game. Brandon Clark's out. And let's look at some per 36 numbers with Derrick Rose off the court. And Rose isn't someone that's been playing a lot of minutes, but he is someone that when he does play can get some shot attempts up. We saw 8, 14, 11. So he is someone that does get a lot of usage when he's out or when he's in. So if he's out, that should open up a lot of use. And so with Derrick Rose off the court thus far this season, no shock. It's been Desmond Bane, Marcus Smart getting the most minutes. That makes sense. I want to see what the other guard is that actually gets more minutes. Not John Concher, not too many for him. And it's not even Luke Kennard. We actually see like Jaren Jackson, Zaire Williams get a lot of minutes. So to me, we might actually just see a couple more minutes go to Marcus Smart's way. Marcus Smart has been pretty darn productive as well. But to me, it's tough to exactly say which player it would be. You would imagine probably John Concher, but I don't think that changes much. So to me, this might just elevate the safety of those other players a little bit more. Bane, Smart, Jaren Jackson, Tillman, and even Zaire Williams. So given the matchup against Portland, I do think we want to be going in on Memphis. And so let's see if we're getting any good props for them. I really hope we are, because to me, this is kind of a late night hammer spot. I want to be going in on it. And so right now, Desmond Bane over rebounds and assists, Zaire Williams over points. I feel pretty good about those. Xavier Tillman over rebounds. Like we are seeing a lot of over props. So I like that the data is agreeing with my original assessment of this game. And I'm going to have to refresh my data at the end of this video because we are getting a lot more fantasy score props as I've been recording this video, which I'm excited for. I like that. Let me take a peek at Bane. Like I think we could do potentially Bane over fantasy score, maybe Jaren Jackson. Like I do think that this is going to be a good spot for all these guys. Marcus Smart, I feel pretty good about Marcus Smart there actually, and probably Zaire Williams. Like I think all these guys get a big bump going against Portland. I want to get into Portland as well real quick, guys, and I'm going to refresh the data on my end just to recap all the best props that we have. Interesting, Marcus Smart though, real quick, points, rebounds, and assists at 24.5. I would agree. Like I like the over there as well. So we'll flip it up and we'll get into Portland here. So Portland, I want to pull up the minutes for DeAndre Ayton because that is definitely noteworthy. And if this game is only a 6-point spread, like that's kind of saying that the game is going to stay close, right? And so if that occurs, I do think we can see DeAndre Ayton getting 31 minutes. And if he gets 31 minutes, he should be able to crush this over like the projection data is stating. DeAndre Ayton for the first game, and I mentioned this, guys, like there are some people on Twitter like saying that the trade was bad. A lot of Suns fans were celebrating. I'm like, well, let's wait until he doesn't get into foul trouble, and let's wait until a game doesn't blow out. And we have seen the last two games, 34 and 32 minutes. And so I think he's someone we're looking at points, rebounds, and assists wise. Like the line, what is that again? 25.5. We saw 16 and 11 and 1. So got the over there, got the over here. And so I agree with that. Even in this game where he got 30 minutes, he crushed it. So that's really the indicator. Like this is a bet on the minutes for DeAndre Ayton. And I really like this one for Ayton. I might even make him the cover boy, guys. But yeah, it's very much a bet on the minutes here for Ayton. And I'm actually curious, what is his fantasy score at? 31.5. So that's not a big difference. I like the over fantasy score for Ayton there as well. Just naturally off the top of my head. Maybe we have a little bit of game stack opportunity here. Let's just go through it. I want to get some props for Malcolm Brogdon, guys. Like we don't have a big sample size with Scoot Henderson off the court, and it's not like Scoot Henderson has been dominating this game or this season just yet. But if we get Malcolm Brogdon getting a little bit more minutes in this game, which you kind of would imagine he would if he's starting, then I like him a decent amount. We got about 3 players tied for the minute split for when Scoot Henderson's off the court. It's Malcolm Brogdon. It's Sharp, who's also questionable. And then it's also the rookie here as well, who would probably get a little bit of a bump as well. So let's talk about his bump. Like if he gets 30 minutes in this game, we look at his per 36 production with Scoot Henderson off the court. Does average 11 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 assists. So maybe we're looking at a rebounds points prop for him if it comes out for Malcolm Brogdon then. And I hate teams that tank that have a player like Malcolm Brogdon. Like, trade him, let him flourish elsewhere. But he has been someone, like, DFS wise, people have just been going in on because he's been too low priced. At least I have. He averages 25 points per 36, 7.6 rebounds, and 6.8 assists. Like, he should be able to go off. Now, maybe Marcus Smart hinders his production a little bit, but no, I really like Malcolm Brogdon here, guys. I really wish, and let's just double check here. Yeah, I don't know why we're not getting a prop on him. Probably because that might leave them too thin there, where they don't think they can gain an edge. Sharp does actually do pretty well as well with him off the court. A very small sample size, but he averages 28 points, actually almost 29 points per 36 with Scoot Henderson off the court. And guys, like, Scoot Henderson has been eating up minutes and a little bit of usage, but he hasn't been doing much with it. And so that's where we could be looking at someone like Sharp. Maybe this is a game stack. So Sharp has averaged 7.5 rebounds, 2.1 assists. And so looking at that per 36 production, and I'm actually curious, is he projected to get 36 minutes? Let's see. I would imagine 35. So yeah, I actually like this one. I know when we look at the game log, it doesn't exactly say that, but I think that's a good one there. We have a good stacking opportunity. And so let's look at the other Portland props that we're getting. Jeremy Grant. Surprisingly, he doesn't get a big boost. He has been someone that kind of struggled in terms of getting his overs. I don't know if I would want to touch his numbers at all, though. So yeah, Aiden, maybe Brogdon. I do like Sharp. And then we can probably run it back with Memphis. So let's touch on that. All right, guys. So sort of as expected here, Sharp is going to be one of the better over fantasy score props at 36. And that's even looking at the line there, guys. Like, we are not seemingly getting an edge on the sports books, but we look at his per 36 production. He should be able to get there, assuming that this game stays close. And once again, if we're betting on Portland, we're hoping that the game stays close. Now, what I find interesting is that the data doesn't exactly like the over for DeAndre Ayton. I would say I do. I like that over. I think we had a good stacking opportunity there. And then let's just look back at Memphis and now refresh the data for the whole slate. Any fantasy score props? Xavier Tillman, actually the under there. Interesting, I would say. Jaren Jackson Jr. under there, and that's probably because they haven't been that consistent as fantasy producers. I want to see Marcus Smart specifically, slightly favoring the over, so I do like that. I think I'm going in on the over for Smart. I mean, Brogdon, don't lock him up, buddy. Don't lock him up. So I like those. And so now in general, let's just take a peek at the best props that we have available on the day again, and then I'll get you guys into the bet of the day. So looking at it, DFS for over his fantasy score, that's seemingly a good one. We got Mikal Bridges for over his fantasy score. Those are two seemingly good ones. We still have Brooke Lopez. So Chet Holmgren, I don't know if I exactly agree with that. The guy has been a stud. I probably like the over there. And this is where I hate fantasy score sometimes, because I'd be like, guys, like, this is a calculation based off of the sports books. I would say bet the over on the sports books because that's a better prop. So I'm probably going in on these two. Data wise, it tells us to do that. So I like that. And then Jalen Williams, we are seeing as a good over fantasy score as well. Luka Doncic potentially as well. All right. I think we got enough for the bet of the day. So I did just pull up Underdog. They're not giving us any fantasy score props just yet, guys. So probably not one that we want to go on too much, but those are the best props. So I'll show you guys the bet of the day on PrizePicks. All right. So I'm going to show you guys two bets. This was going to be my bet of the day, and I think I still will count this as the bet of the day. For those of you guys that are wondering, I keep a track of the bet of the day record in the link in the description below, or just in the description below. Been pretty good. And so I do think we are gaining a little bit of a good stacking opportunity if the game stays close for Portland. I think it's going to be because of these two and Malcolm Brogdon as well. But we did see that the data did like the over for Sharp there. And then because I'm doing that, because I'm betting on the game staying close, I wanted to run it back with a prop, which I thought was Marcus Smart. I thought that's the best one. I do worry about Malcolm Brogdon potentially hindering his production. We did see that these two both average over their projections of fantasy score with SJ off the court. Now, these are a little bit tight, don't get me wrong, but the data did like Jalen Williams for over fantasy score. I'm fine betting on that. And then I do think that Vucevic is going to have a better game, or still a good game as well, going against Brooklyn. So I do like him as well. But the data really like these two guys, these two props for Brooklyn. Let me zoom in here. And so I probably want to be getting on these as well. Like, if you guys like any other props that I mentioned throughout this video, like I had Gafford for under his rebounds or points, and I think it was assist. That was a good one that I had written down. So that'd be one. Maybe if you guys like that one, you could use that as well. That is going to be all for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the coverage. If you did, make sure to give a like and subscribe. Not giving any NHL or anything out for today, or the discrepancies. Kind of a longer video. Don't want to go too long. If you guys want to join 9 to 5, you can get access to those props as well as the PrizePicks and Underdog cheat sheet. The membership is available for just $10 a month. I actually took down a showdown for golf yesterday, just using my tools that I have available for fantasy golf. So pretty big edge there, I would say. But yeah, thanks for watching. Let's have a good slate. And as always, let's keep cashing.